Blog Talk Radio.
Here at ACO Radio, American Communications Online, or any affiliated stations or websites are not responsible for what guest hosts or call-ins may say. All programming is intended for informational and entertainment purposes only.
ET Radio. We are now part of American Communications Online, and we have the ACO Radio Club with Janet Carroll Lesson, Dr. Bruce Cornet, Thomas R. Becker, Ken R. Johnston, Thomas A. Sinisi, and Dr. Alexander Sasha Lesson. And we have, in the past, done ACE Folklife oral historians in the spoken word and in our Ascension Center, our Ascension Center network in Hawaii. And our ACE team presents some information, and in the past we've been open source, and we have been together since 2003 from Kentucky, and I have moved to Florida, and we're involving crowds and groups and associations and professional associations and hobbyists, and there's the various groups in folklore and legacy, and we have people that share music and books and influence history and discuss various arts, culture, education, science, technology, history, and folklife. And we have various initiatives and resources and supporters, and we appreciate everybody. And we are working together today in what's new and who we are and who's who and how we will move forward with our humanistic commitment to our scientific engagement, but also how we may register as a charitable organization internationally in the future, because our mission's always been to stimulate cultural equity through preservation, research, and dissemination of the world's books and music and our communities and pop culture now with our creative heritage. And our background comes from many years of knowing each other in the hills of Kentucky. And I was born in Louisiana, and I loved going to Washington, D.C. and visiting the Library of Congress and the Smithsonian with my dad. And so some of my best memories are going to libraries and museums, and I don't want to see that go away. And I know we have a lot of people that love ancient cultures and now ancient aliens and the History Channel, and we have the Travel Channel, and we're doing everything we can in the documentary and the film industry to make original collections. And back in 1996, when Mr. Lomax, let me see if I can, Alan Lomax retired, We founded the ACE for Cultural Equity, and he explored and preserved the world's expressive traditions with humanistic commitment and scientific engagement. And ACE was registered then as a charitable organization in the state of New York in 1983. So he was housed at the New York City's Hunter College. But it still remains for us to learn how we can put our magnificent mass communications technology at the service of each and every branch of the human family. So that's the background of it. He was a musicologist, writer, and producer. He spent his life researching and promoting unrecorded and unrecognized music and dance and oral traditions. And that was to reaffirm the beauty and unique value of folk traditions in our source communities and on the world stage. So we are continuing that development, and we have had archivists that have been sharing lots of information with the world, including this type of collection, and we'd like to keep that up with our white papers on the national cultural world and the National Endowment for Humanities. And there's a need to support your local, regional, and immigrant folk life, but also white Anglo-Saxon Protestant folk life. So we work with everybody, regardless of their political or religious or even personal descriptions. And so that's when we formed this ACO and TJ Morris ET Radio. And I formed American Communications Online with some friends of mine. And we're doing a community that I've been working in forever, it seems like, in my whole life. But we're updating today in the 2020 our partners and collaborators, including with the Library of Congress, Rock Foundation, Green Family Foundation, Center for Research and Black Culture, and Grenadian Ministry of Tourism and Culture, Irish Traditional Music, and many, many others that are individuals, scholars, academics, and researchers. And my specialty has been chosen for me, so to speak, as a alien contactee, UFO experiencer in my reality. Plus, I've died several times, so I work with phenomenology, and I work with paranormal and historians that do. I met J. Allen Hynek, and I agreed to just help keep this, what we call the alien ET UFO community, alive, with plenty of people that share that. Now, I'm going to call one of Jan ALdrich. We're doing our best to help him in a collaborative understanding of doing his claims of archiving, and as a historian and a professional, because he has a degree and will put up his knowledge to with anybody. And we're doing a group called UFO Association Organization for people that have that niche genre. And we're going to try to put all the different people that work with all the organizations, if they want to be in our little club. It's only $3 a month. And we have different levels, and we train people in oral history. So I'm going to see if he'll answer today. Make sure I've got the right phone
Hello?
number. Hi, is this Jan ALdrich?
Yes,
Hello.
it is.
Great. You sound like you're out of breath. Are you willing to help us today?
I just got back from an appointment. I just now pulled into the driveway now.
Oh, okay, we'll take a few minutes. I can try to see if I can get some help with this. Janet Lesson
let me go on the other
on.
phone here. Let me go on the other phone.
Okay, well, go ahead. We're live.
This will just take a second.
All righty then. We'll do the time machine and keep our timelines uncrossed and stay right here with the gentleman of Connecticut for our association, one of the principal chief directors, with Jan Maccabee and Dr. Bruce Maccabee, Ph.D., and we have Dr. Bruce Cornet, as I mentioned, and we have Dr. Alexander Sasha Lesson is our three
here I am
PhDs.
again.
Great, Jan. I appreciate it. You're like me, the working class association of our various associations. And I was talking to people about our ACE association and some of the history of collecting musicology cultures with music. And, we've got various groups. And that was founded by Alan Lomax in 1983. And we have continued on with our ACE Folklife Society, but we've been doing this open source, and we would like to be an international 501c3, but the Association for Cultural Equity is a 501c3, not-for-profit, charitable organization chartered in New York. Now, you're in Connecticut, and I'm in Florida, and then Janet's in Hawaii, and would like to be custodians of whatever domains and files we have, but we've seen that a lot of people can't really afford to keep it all up, and it goes into the Wayback Machine. Are you familiar with the Wayback Machine?
Yes, I am. A lot of stuff, even with the Wayback Machine, has just been lost.
Right, including a lot of stuff I've done for years with Ace Folklife and American News magazine and a lot of stuff. So it's expensive to keep up databases, and I've been with Google since '97, I believe. He started at May '97. And I was lucky to be inside the government and then working at U.S. Express and being trained to run 100, train people, 100, 150 at a time with, have you heard of Qualcomm?
Yeah, I own stock in Qualcomm.
Wow, I used to. I don't know if I still do because I sold it to buy a car when I retired. Yeah. But Qualcomm invented tech the world loves, so anyway, I trained people. So I'm going to try and use, now that I've retired, some of my skills with yours, being that you and I both worked in security and information and personnel and worked in the government, and maybe we've got a higher calling to help before we pass on and leave something, but we've got to figure out the best way to convene with our academics and higher education and journals and have, I guess we're going to have an open journal system, I don't know, but I've been talking to you about archiving and the best way to save money for all our organizations. Open journal systems and the Public Knowledge Project. I don't know if you're the multi-university, but you and I do free open source, but we're not connected to money or any of the universities. So last week we were talking about how we were going to do this professionally or as a hobby or both, but apparently the government and American Communications Online is my holding company for such things as developing as a developer, American Communications Online Broadcasting Company, how we're doing speechcraft and the spoken word. And I've got book 2, episode 6 for today up for Jan ALdrich, you as an oral historian with Ace Folklife, but also with UFO Association Organization as a principal helping Dr. Bruce Maccabee and his wife Jan, and then how you and I have gone back and helped in our past in organizations like Center for UFO Studies, J. Allen Hynek, because that's big up for even my family calling me about Project Blue Book and thinking maybe they owe me an apology, which I mentioned last week, that maybe some of this stuff isn't all woo-woo and foo-foo fighters, or that maybe some of it's real. But you've been discussing whether it's real or not, how to get around all this. And Jan, if you'll hold on just a minute, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, if you don't mind, whatever formal introduction for today's oral history on your book 6, and then we'll bring on Janet Carroll Lesson, who just tuned in. So you go ahead, if you don't mind, just introduce yourself.
Well, I'm Jan ALdrich. I've spent 50 years stealing from the government, and they haven't caught me yet. First, I was in the military for 25 years as a meteorologist, security and intelligence, assistant adjutant, and finally as safety. And I was an enlisted person, so they threw me into a high-level safety position that should have been filled by a rather high-level civilian safety person who had taken a lot of the requisite courses, probably had a degree. But sometimes you just go where you're sent, and you do what they, you try to pick up what the job is and do it to your best. And so that's how I've been in that position several times. After that, I worked for the post office for 25 years. And so that's about government service now. For about almost 60 years, I've been interested in UFOs, and the last years I have collected huge amounts of material, either by certain people donating me their collections before they passed on, or from going around the country and visiting people, or visiting archives and visiting newspaper morgues and doing research in libraries and archives. My main interest in ufology is history and close encounters. I really think it's important. I think that's the way to study the UFO phenomena, is by close encounters. There's a lot of clues in there, and if we gather enough evidence and lay it out on the table, we can maybe come up with something. My friend Lauren Gross wrote a book called The Fifth Horseman of the Apocalypse, and he got that title from Dr. Lincoln LaPlace, who was a meteor tracer in New Mexico. And what Lauren would do is get all the, for a certain year, he'd get all the documents, sightings, other developments for that year, and lay them out in his giant living room and dining room, and then put them in chronological order, and then write about them. And so that's more or less what we have to do with, I believe, close encounters. They've got to all be laid out and studied very carefully. Now, there's a lot of people who say, well, we don't have to do anything because we already know everything. No, we don't. I don't think we know anything. All these people that are waiting for disclosure, I'm sorry. You're barking up the wrong tree. There's not going to be disclosure. We're going to have to do it ourselves. And that means work. And this is a subject that apparently doesn't like too much work. It's like I've told other people, it's 2% perspiration, 2% research, and 96% speculation. We have, it's like Hynek said, we have an embarrassment of riches. We have thousands upon thousands of cases, but we haven't really studied more than a few of them, and some of them we keep going over again, and they're false trails because they've been shown to be IFOs, but they're still kept in people's minds as the real thing, which they aren't. So I am not too convinced that in what little time I have left that we're going to find out what UFOs are. I do believe there are a lot of people right now that are trying to find something out, but they're more or less doing it lone wolf style. There are some.
Well, let me bring on one of those. Oh, go ahead. Finish that.
Yeah,
thought.
go ahead.
There's some organizations. That's a perfect segue for Janet Carroll Lesson, who's been working with me since 2012 in Revolution Radio too. But the main thing is Ascension Center organization, and I've got Ascension.Center, and she has AscensionCenter.network, and we're networking as an outreach with Jan ALdrich today on his Book 2, Episode 6, for the UFO Association organization, ACE Folklife Oral Historians. And Janet Carroll Lesson, I'd like you to introduce yourself so we can talk with Jan today about how we're going to save everybody money and work in free libraries or on websites. So go ahead, introduce yourself.
Hi, aloha. This is Janet Carroll Lesson. I'm a frequent co-host with Teresa J. Morris on the group, or what do you call it, simulcast we do on Aquarius Radio Network and TJ Morris EP Radio, and we're authors with, and I also do shows with my husband, Dr. Sasha Alex Lesson, and we have dozens of websites and yada, yada, yada. So we're very busy people. So, I'm not sure. I'm tuning in. I'm just getting dealt my day job, my other job. I'm tuning into the show. I know that Teresa's been doing this show for how many weeks now? 6 weeks or something?
Don't know. I think I don't know if this is our 10th week or not. It's episode 6 on Book 2. So we've already done 10 or 12 weeks before on Book 1. This is Book 2,
wow.
So you're on episode 6. Yeah, time flies when you're having fun,
amazing.
folks.
That's amazing. Well, I tuned in periodically, and it's a great job, and I'm glad you're getting it all documented. And I'm here. I can ask some questions here and again, and I'm not sure exactly my role in today's show, but I tuned in, and I'm here, and I'm here to serve. And do we want to ask each other questions, or how do we want to do this?
Well, if you'll pull up blogtalkradio.com/TJ Radio, and then the Gaia movement is really big, but with environmental and education, which is really big now with the young kids. And Jan, we were talking about the baby boomers, and this is actually what we would like to historically archive as the spoken word with Jan ALdrich. And Jan has been explaining various organizations, but I do want to help the Gaia movement, so I put in Gain Gaia movement, but they're always watchers on people doing various profits and non-profits, and as a non-profit organization, and we haven't really formed ours. We have an unincorporated association of various organizations, so how, we get to work together. I'm doing my best to form a community on Patreon, so I'll invite everybody that if you want to work on a project with my company is American Communications Online Broadcasting Company, and I help do live shows and podcasts, as well as I have TJ Morris Publishing for books, and we use, like everybody else do, print on demand through Amazon and Lulu. All these companies I worked with book publishing pretty much all went to print on demand with. There's a whole historical story about Amazon coming in and changing the print business, the printing business I won't go into right now. But Jan has agreed to help me where Dr. Bruce Maccabee left off and asked to step down, but he's still in our group, as is Jan. I got a message thanking me for keeping up the community, and how we're doing it in free social media. And Dr. Bruce Maccabee asked if he could step down and simply be noticed in Facebook because it was easier for him, but I have seen him here. He's still doing films and documentary and being asked as a walk-on, and with Jan and working with various producers in our LinkedIn community. So, whoops, Janet fell off. I guess she'll be back in a minute. So the phone rang. But, Jan, back to you. Now, you had to say you're in the middle of a sentence when Janet came on. I'm sure she'll be back with the organizations that you see us doing this with.
Well, no,
our own, or
I can't say that there's much organizational work that's going on right now. That MUFON is active, but many others are in a quiescent period. They're dormant, or they're working on things where they're not recruiting people on the outside to do things. I just watched a Nova program, and they were talking about how they got thousands of people all around the world to look at these photographs they had of animals in a South American country, I think it was, and some of these animals are not even well known, and so they had all these people look at these, assigned a certain number of pictures to each person to look at them, because these things were being taken on and off during the day and during the night, had night vision type of stuff, so they could identify some of these animals and see some of the habits that they had. And they had several thousand people looking at these things. We have nothing like that. We've never had anything like that. These were like citizen scientists. This is exactly what we need for ufology. We've got all this lone wolf thing, so we keep reinventing the wheel, and cooperation seems to be something that is hard to get. And like I say, if money isn't involved, you can't get consistent results. Money helps there, but we're not in a position to hire a bunch of people to analyze things or get things in order or translate things or anything like that. Now, for a while we had NICAP, and they did a lot of investigating, and to a certain extent MUFON has its own model of investigation. NICAP had a little subcommittees all around the country. So I think they had 45 altogether, but at one time they probably had 30 that were active. So they had them in California, Texas, Iowa, Illinois, Florida. Sometimes they had more than one. In a state like Texas, you need a lot of these little committees running around and investigating things. So that's investigation. Now, we don't do so bad there because we do have a lot of, or we've had in the past organizations that do send investigators out. The problem comes after they get the data. The data starts disappearing or is not organized, or and that's my main fault. I don't have a filing system. I've got a piling system. I've got tons of stuff here, rooms full of files and things, and after collecting things for almost 50 years, it's time to try to start putting it in some kind of order. So I haven't been doing that, and my alibi is that I've been in the Army and I've been working for the post office, and both of those eat up a tremendous amount of time. Now that I'm retired, I'm trying to get this stuff, these files, scanned and on a computer medium so that people can use them. Now, I recommend people go to the internet and look up the big study. It's done by Michael Swords. And he's had as much experience as I have. Being a professor, he was able to give more time to making files and analyzing material. And the big study is the result of his work. It goes through hundreds of blog entries, what he thinks is the best way to attack the UFO problem. And I highly recommend it. He hasn't written for it in about 5 years now, but it still is consulted by a large number of people. And like I said, real ufology is a lot of grunt work, and people don't want that. They want instant results or great things, and a lot of ufology is failure. We get thousands of reports, but many are not worth anything, or they're easily explainable, and some of them that are need to be further developed. A lot of this is not really glamorous or anything. It's to a certain extent, it's tedious. I find it exciting, though, when I can marry up data from one place to another, say in the same sighting. I can find additional data that other people had looked at the same place or had looked at and come up with more data. The whole thing about ufology is more data. Well, we've got so much now, we're busting at the seams. Now we need to put it in some kind of order, and we need to analyze it. And that's why I say my interest is history and close encounters, because I think that's the way to attack this problem.
That's a good idea. And I've got the space. What did I start? One of these. I start Facebook pages all the time. Space Travel Advocates, I think, STA, and Janet and I have AlienContact.org. We just had some radio shows to archive. But Janet, what do you think of his proposal for? He has close encounters and historians, but we're looking at how to bring as many people together as we can, but not lose our archives in the Wayback Machine, Janet, because, I've lost my American News Magazine, I've lost my data, and I've lost my computers, and that's what I've learned in doing this for many, many, many years. But we hear the government's going to keep it for national security reasons out in the mountains, but they're collecting data, but we don't know if there's future talk of it being kept on crystals and all of that, but, like we did the crystal skulls, we can cross over into the 13 crystal skulls, but that's Ace Folkife and metaphysics. But, Janet, this is for
question?
Jan and how we can... I don't know what the question's supposed to be, because Jan's got good ideas, but he's got his files, Project 1947. I've got all my files here on TJMRCT Radio, people we've done, and ideas for the Ascension Center and the Ace Folklife, which, we have. And I've talked about ACO Club forever on my shows here. So I have historical archives and documents along with you on the Ascension Center network. But how do you feel, because we're all paying as individuals, like Jan said, And the various, we three are principals, the various courses, scopes, disciplines, projects, and resources in our own databases. So what are we willing to do and what are we willing to pay for as individuals versus sharing an open source so everybody can see it, which is my ACE Folklife historians. But now Jan has come out and explained to us on radio back last summer with Barry Greenwood. I don't know if were you here or not, Janet. Do you remember? Janet,
well, let me interject something before we get too far down the line of what, because I have a little piece of information here. When I was working at Federated Investors in the late 80s, early 90s, I got
Can
to
you
go
speak
on
a little louder?
I got to go on a day trip up to the mines where they stored, because this is Federated Investors, so they're required by law to keep records. So
Federated Investors of Pennsylvania,
so
are they still in existence?
I'm pretty sure they would like the third or fourth largest investment company, and I worked for them in the late 80s, early 90s. I think I worked in the late 80s. So then I got to go up to the mine, and I got a tour of the mine somewhere in Pennsylvania, and it's a deep underground facility. So we were in little golf carts going around, or a little bit bigger than that, on a tour, and they were showing us all the different places. All you could see was the doors, but you went down and down and down and around, and it's like it's carved out the inside of a giant mountain. And so This is one of many facilities around the world which a lot of the main companies store their information. So I'm pretty sure that everything that's getting generated is underground, pretty safe, designed to, last forever. And they did the same thing with the Anunnaki. The Anunnaki had the underground storage, and then of course in Norway they have a place where they're storing all the seeds. Well, there's probably many places where seeds are being preserved, or they should be preserved, besides just Norway. These underground vaults, which, we can restore civilization if we get wiped out, if we so well choose. So that's one level. And then the other day, my friend called me. I won't name his name, and he went out over 22,000 other archaeologists, and he's going on a dig in Iraq. And he said they're back to 4 levels, and they have 8 more levels. And he said that they beat out 22,000 other people, and they're going to go down 8 levels, and it's 4 levels. They're already back to, like, I'm trying to find my notes, 5,000 BC, something like that. So we're probably going to be going back. The Anunnaki are 450,000 years. So somehow this stuff gets preserved, and then there's the Akashic record. So somehow, even though we may not be aware of it, there's some effort to preserve the information that's generated by, humanity, be it extraterrestrial or our own Earth-based forces or a combination thereof. So I think this stuff is getting preserved. Everything we say is somehow getting preserved. So what is your goal? So you want to do what with this information? Are you attempting to somehow influence the course of creation, of humanity, of where we're going? What is your goal, your personal goal, both of you, by archiving this information? What do you hope to accomplish? Because we all just get to dance for a short while. We're just dust in the wind. But what is your legacy, both of you? What is your legacy?
I can go back to metaphysics, but let's just say that maybe now in the Ascension Age, which I came to purposely mention and remain, I was hoping to remain anonymous.
No,
well, let's just say, for sake of future disclosure of humanity, that some of us know that we're inside like an illusion, and one way to think about it with your filters, and that we have proven, working in various universes, that each one of us is a fraction. It's like taking a mirror and shattering it into pieces. And now the young people that I mentioned baby boomers, we're baby boomers, but let's say that some of us now have gotten out the reincarnation bubble, that people realize that they live forever, that energy can neither be created or destroyed, it can just be moved around. So with my goal before I pass, being that I've passed 3 times already and keep coming back to help this group on this planet in this bubble, is the fact that I'm here to make sure all the universes get pieced back together. And on this planet, in this group of beings that keep coming back to work here, some of them call it a prison planet, is the fact that they're here until they level up. And back in when I was with NASA and we went to watch 2001 Space Odyssey in the 60s, we thought we were going to be in a completely different world that we all thought we created, and somebody stole the narrative. So again, like the Caesar Rome period, I call it pinpoints in time because, well, time is an illusion. We have space-time. But I don't want to get into the quantum physics of it. But at the same time, we're looking for ways to keep a reality in check. And UFO Association can do that because they've already swapped the narrative. We're baby boomers, but the millennials have already stuck it over at UAP with the help of some old-timers that keep the greed going on. But, okay, so we're going to go UAP now. But, I saw lots of things where different people take their ideas, and that's fine. There's abundance here. There's enough for everybody, but I want to do the uplifting and solution. So in answer to the question, I joined with Jan to take who we are in the past and assist with the ACE Folkife, which I've been a member of at least on the internet since 2003 when I started doing events, and helped with my husband get his books written. And so I've joined in doing Speechcraft and Ascension Center with since the 80s in Hawaii, and I'm trying to form Ascension Center with ACE Folklife and ACO Association with UFO Association, which I actually agreed to do years and years ago. So I have a contract of life May 10th, 1967 to May 10th, 2017 for 50 years. But in my past lives, I've seen where we thought we did this once, and we put it all in libraries, and I'll be damned if they didn't have a fire when Rome decided to take it over and burnt the friggin' library down. So we're trying to do something better in many universes, including the crystal skulls, but nobody's going to believe that, and hook the grid back up with the Akashic field, which nobody's going to believe that. So as long as we can do today in reality, we can be disgruntled entrepreneurs and help people like Jan. Jan's had cancer in his throat, and it's in remission, or he got rid of it. Jan, are you completely fluid-free of anger, cancer, so you can help us with this? You're free?
Well, yeah, I'm free of cancer. I was 7 years free from cancer.
All right. Well, I see this as we're doing hard copy, but Jan knows past libraries. We do this over and over on this planet. We come back and we sabotage our cultures. And Jan, don't you want to see what you've done, or the people in the baby boomer, or even all the way back to, I don't know, whoever you want, the book authors and the people that helped us with Grudge and Sign and UFO associations. I mean, pull them together and try to save your stuff. So Jan's got a point. They were going to put investors, that we've got caves all over the place. And that may help in the future, but some things that are left in stone and the marks may survive, but the culture doesn't. Because the people used oral. They thought, okay, well, we'll definitely, try to keep some of this in various languages. But when the people come back, those that are above us or know more than we do out there how to, create universes, they sometimes have different groups for whatever reason come back down, and we don't know. So you're calling various levels in this game of life or game of the universes something like Close Encounters. So that is like a story. So we're all storytellers. And we're all individuals, and we're all broke off from the original. Now, the young kids are going back to what we did with how the world in movie industry saw 2001 Space Odyssey. And now they've got the theory of everything with Tom Campbell, My Big Toe, and physics, and not everybody is going to accept what we've done in the past with separating politics and religion. And so they're bringing it together in sort of a science, spiritual science, quantum physics, and going to try to pull it in together into one big blog like 2001 Space Odyssey. And I've seen the films that people are making, and they're great. But they're saying that all of our consciousness is out there like that big plank. Did you see that, Jan, 2001 Space Odyssey, with that big plank out there? They're saying now that our consciousness is separate from this reality, and that it's outside this universe somewhere, outside all universes. And I've been to 7 myself, and I couldn't get any farther. So, did you see that plank?
I'm sorry. That's metaphysical and way beyond what I'm doing. I'm doing simple grunt work. And
all right. Well, that's movie industry.
I'd like to plant this idea. 2 things that people might want to look at before
you pass.
No, before we finish this program.
Okay.
Just recently, if you go to Above Top Secret, the website.
Okay. Sure.
If you go to that one, there's millions of pages of records and transcripts of podcasts and media, various media interviews and things like that have just been put on the web. And if you go there, it'll tell you how to get to it. So that's
there.
one thing. It's a huge repository of information that's just been put up. So everybody can use it. It's free for everybody. So it's the website is Above Top Secret.
All right.
And people may be aware of that because it usually lets people know when records and things become available.
I asked Lear to come on. What's his name out there in Vegas? I always call him Bob, but it's not John Lear. I asked John, right? John Lear, isn't that it? Janet, you've interviewed him. I asked him to come on, but he says you didn't do right. Isn't it John Lear? You've had him on, the one from Vegas, the pilot.
Lear.
He was in MUFON. Yeah. Well, I asked him to come on. All right. Well, he doesn't do radio anymore. He told me that. So, but he does. He told me about Above Top Secret years ago. So, Jan, I don't know how long it's been going on.
No, this is just a website. It's named Above Top Secret. It's not anything to do with Lear. It's a website. It's named Above Top Secret. He uses it. Okay. Well, good.
Yeah, he promoted it on some films.
Right.
So, but he is in our UFO association, or he is an old timer. We're going to discuss who's who today. I hope if we get around to it. All right. I'm here. What do you want me to see here?
Is I already mentioned the big study, and so this is this is what I want to do. I want to do with my stuff is
the big study.
The big study. It's
I'll go there.
You just put that into Google and it'll go right to it, and it's and it's Michael Swords' adventures in ufology and paranormal, because he's interested in more subjects than I am. He's interested in a number of things.
Study? The Big Study is a blog. It says a free blog spot. Walking.
Yes, it is a blog spot.
Out Proctor, The Last Foggy Path. Okay, it's a free blog. It's on Blogger. I've got plenty of these. The Big Study. Okay, these are free. Walking Our Path of Foggy. All right, this is just a free blog. on Blogger. So what about this? Is this really what you
said
want me to see?
It's Michael Sword's work in his a lot of comments on his lifetime as far as what he's done and how he thinks the subject should be approached and everything like that. And like I said, it's free.
Ivan Sanderson stuff? Is
yes,
this like
he has
Florian?
Ivan. When I started out Project 47, I contacted the people that had the Suti and the Pursuit and Ivan Sanderson's stuff, and I said, "Could I come down and look at them?" And the guy who was in charge said no. He said, "We're afraid that people will steal stuff. People have been stealing
right.
stuff." So I said,
sure,
"Well, can you get a nephew or a niece to watch me while I'm looking at this stuff, and I'll pay for it." And they were so paranoid they wouldn't do it. But eventually, there's nobody to get his files. So they gave them to Michael Swords, and they're stored in a safe place. And we're looking to make them available to the public.
That's going to be a huge undertaking.
So that it is huge. Sanderson worked for decades. I mean, he's passed away, but he did a lot of work, and his files are still in existence, thanks to a couple of people that salvaged them, and they're hopefully we will have a place where the public can come and look at them if they want to. People have been coming from all over the world to look at this stuff. Swords had a collection of some of the Sanderson stuff was this Russian scientist wanted to see what Swords had on Yeti, and he had all kinds of books, and some of them were in Russian, and the Russian scientist said, "I can't get these in Russia. They've disappeared." For all the time they had the communists, they weren't interested in this kind of stuff. And he says, "I can't get this in Russia, but you have it." So he was able to come and copy that stuff and talk to Swords about it, and that's so this blog is like going to Swords' house and talking to him about how he feels that UFOs, and of course, like I said, he's interested in the paranormal. So, what he thinks about these things, it's like a conversation with him, if you want.
You like the style, but it's free. Now, this hasn't been updated since 2015. I must not be looking at the...
Yeah.
Oh, it is right. Okay.
Yeah, it is right. It hasn't been updated since 2015. It's all through.
Okay. Well,
it says at the very...
Oh, my gosh.
The very end of it, it says, this is a slow swan song. In other words, he's ending the blog after years and years of writing it.
Wow.
So
yeah,
if you look in there, and he's a scientist and he's a historian, and he and Robert Powell were the primary writers of UFOs and government.
Well, Janet's got the only one of all my blogs like this. She asked to have the network and did .net, and we back then we could export blogs to our websites, and I can't even do it now. They've taken so much away, even though I'm a developer. But it was easy with WordPress at the time I did it, so I transferred her my files when she asked to help me in Hawaii. So she has these blogs like I've got, but this is just a simple blog, and we could cut and paste it, but we need to see who has the copyright because it's on just a free
Swords
place.
has the copyright, so he doesn't care.
Okay. Well, we can grab it.
The last time I met with him, he told me the whole reason for this is so other people can use it.
So you want to keep? Well, that's what we've been doing for all these years. Janet and I and you is free open source.
Right. So Lauren Gross wrote his books. You know, for a while he sold them afterwards, but then money wasn't the currency he wanted. He wanted
Bruce
information.
Cornet just joined us.
So,
okay, Janet may come back in a minute.
So Lauren.
Bruce?
Yes?
Oh, go ahead. All right. Stand by. We want to introduce you. Go ahead, Jan. I apologize. I just wanted you to know I've got a delay. But
right.
I'm following what you're saying, and we've this blogger, The Big Study, folks, and I'm hearing what he's saying, is we need to grab all this and put it somewhere. But we got to pay for the databases, and I've got a bunch of them. But go ahead, and then Bruce Cornet will be here to support you as well. Go ahead.
So Lauren Gross, like I said, at first he sold his books, but then like I said, the currency changed. It wasn't money; it was information. So if you go to Sign Oral History Project, or SOPH, Sign Oral History Project. Yeah, SOHP.US, or maybe it's /US. I don't know. I don't have my computer in front of me right now. Anyways, if you go there, there's a little icon that says UFOs a History, which is the booklets from the Fifth Horseman of the Apocalypse, which is what he changed the title to. So there's about 40 booklets covering from pre-47 up to 1963. And like I said, this is how he did this. He laid everything out in his for each year or part of a year. Maybe he'd do 6 months at a time. He'd lay all the documents he had out, put them in chronological order, and then write about them. So that and it was a history all across all kinds of things. So there was also what the governments were doing all over the world. Anything he could, any information he could get, and he got information from all around the world from people. And so they would, he would write these booklets, and those are for free now. They're up on the web. You can read them for free. My website is free. I mean, these are none of these things are money-making deals or opportunities. They're not for that. It's to make sure that the data is passed on. And in Lauren's case and in Swords' case, it's some of the best work they've done.
Well, Dr. Bruce Cornet just joined us, and Janet, I hope you can hear me. Janet's trying to run a business over there. But I asked Dr. Bruce Cornet to weigh in on this subject today for UFO Association. He's joined me with my ACO club, as has Tommy, for the Alien Contact Organization part of it. But Dr. Bruce Cornet has been a friend of Dr. McAbee's, I guess, and yours, because I asked you last week if you knew who I was talking about, and you said Bruce Cornet, so he's here now. You guys want to talk a minute? Dr. Bruce Cornet, why don't you introduce yourself, because this is a live recording.
Yeah.
Well, this is for the live recording I'm doing
for
now,
the library.
For
okay, sure.
Okay, go ahead, Dr. Bruce.
I'm not going to go through my curriculum vitae or resume or anything like that. At this time, if somebody wants to know who I am, they just need to Google Dr. Bruce Cornet, and you'll come up with a whole bunch of links to my web pages, etc. So,
thank you.
I've been in,
we're building
in this field.
Go ahead.
Okay, I've been in this this field since 1992, and involved in this interest in the subject when I discovered that it was happening over my condominium in Middletown, New York, and nearby. And I got Dr. Ellen Crystal to take me out into the field, and she introduced me to the phenomenon. And last year, I succeeded in publishing a book on my 11-year field study, which is called Unconventional Aerial Phenomena in the Hudson and Wallkill River Valley of New York. So it's comprehensive, and you can get the Kindle version, which contains all the pictures in color, for only about $9.99. So that is probably the way to go to get the full value of the work that I've done.
Wonderful. Well, that's a good idea, and we do have an author's book club, folks. So if you want to, let me know who you are and join our little group, and we'll help get your book out there. At least let people know who you are. We're going to do a who's who, and these gentlemen are like me. We're the old guys. I seem to get along with people my age because we lived it, folks, but now I'm being asked to train all these kids, and I shouldn't say it that way. The younger generations, my grandson, et cetera, and friends in the libraries and the which I love because I lived a lot in libraries and was always assistant librarian, and radio show. People are wanting to come and want to do learn to do live radio and podcasting, and I'm trying to bring it all together and be uplifting for people that also want to train others or teach classes online with webinars. So welcome, everybody. This is the second hour. We're right on it. This is Teresa J. Morris, and I have ACO Club, and in that I have Ascension Center Organization and UFO Association, as well as ACE Folklife Historians, and we're all social media. You can find me on social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, Pinterest, Twitter are the four main I use, and I've invited friends of mine that are assisting me in actually being principals and helping me organize, and everybody's got such little time, and used to in the past we met once a month. That's before we had the Internet. And then after we had the Internet, I was the president, CEO of the local Civitan International, and I was trained to run organizations at the international world level, and had to pay my own way to the Hilton and pay my own $100. But Jan and I have been archivists as well as Dr. Bruce Cornet. So in a way, we're historians, we're archivists, we're ufologists, and we're doing our best to try to get this mainstream, not just as pseudoscience, but it's definitely under anthropology, because I got it with Western Kentucky University as Folklife, which falls under anthropology and academia. But we're all working together, and with Janet Carolesson and Tommy Hawksblood of Hawaii, and doing radio shows for the oral and spoken word. So here we are. Now, this is part of Book 2 with Jan ALdrich, Episode 6, who agreed to come in. And he's been helping Center of UFO Studies with Barry Greenwood in taking on different timelines. He took on Project 1947, and he's worked with Bigelow, and so has Cornet. And I find that interesting because we're talking open source, what we're willing to do free in the world and put out there internationally so we can have open source documentation. However, those of you that want to keep your information, we're looking at all the people that talk about servers in the cloud, where our information is stored, and now how much the government, FCC rules internationally, is shared internationally. Plus, a lot of the countries, China and Russia, like Jan said, they don't really access the information. Their company in the communication world, they can't see what we're putting out there. Plus, a lot of stuff we're putting out there is being put in the time, is being flattened, as we say in the communication and digital world, and it's not out there anymore, including things I've put out there. So, Bruce, you want to tell the audience with you and Jan, you guys, we want help to bring this together and to make something better. And Bruce, Jan, is going to a event that I've offered to help get the word out and promote with him for Bob Brown. And I'm real happy about that. It seemed a little free thing I made. But, you know, it's easy for me to do because I know how. But not everybody knows how to do it and throw it up for nothing. But anyway, we can offer these services, and Janet's back on now. Tommy Hawksblood showed up, but he left, and now Janet's back on. But, Bruce, go ahead. We're here. And all of us are principals, and we're all trying to work together in free social media, folks. And I'm paying to archive this in my archive on Blog Talk Radio. And we're going to talk about what we're all willing to do for our own stuff and our own files. But how do we come together, and how do we save what's out there free? Blogger can go down at any time. They took away G. I don't know when they will, but I've got a lot of stuff that Janet's got as long as she pays for our Ascension Center Network, and I've asked her to weigh in too. But, Janet, let's let Bruce weigh in. Bruce Cornet, Dr. Bruce,
sure.
What are you willing to pay for? Weigh in on this conversation. Because all these groups, CUFOS, MUFON, NICAP, and now we got ACIR, Ace Folklife, but with Jan, you guys do this stuff and have done it for years, but we're trying to say, yeah, free's fine. But those of us that are developers and paying for time to be on the Internet, you know, we still have to pay our way, but we're willing to all work together and combine our resources. But, Dr. Cornet, you're going to be going to an event and speaking in front of people, but you can help us a lot by saying, how can we come together with Jan ALdrich, the old-timer, with Bruce Maccabee, because you're one of them. So go ahead, weigh in on this.
Well, I don't know exactly how I can weigh in, other than to say that I am at my stage in life where I am getting the work that I've done out to the public in publication form and on the Internet. I've published hundreds of web pages on my sightings, each one being well documented, and they can be accessed through the Internet. Just by Googling my name and following my links to the various front pages that I have generated ever since the late 90s. And there's a YouTube video out that was based on a History Channel report or series in March of 2008, which was about the UFO vortexes, the UFO hunters. And I thought that presentation of Pine Bush and of my work there had just basically dropped off the edge of the earth. And once the Ancient Aliens had come on, and to my surprise, somebody has resurrected it and put it on YouTube. So you just have to Google UFO vortexes and UFO hunters, and that video will come up. And it's a very good explanation of what was going on and what I discovered in the field there. On February 17th, which is a Monday, I'll be giving a talk, a 2-hour talk at the Laughlin UFO Mega Conference in Nevada. And that is combining all of my material that I gave in 2 different separate talks at the Coffee 11 conference and the Extraordinary Technology Conference in Albuquerque this previous August. So, and if you want to stay around for my Thursday, 20 February talk, an hour and a half on my personal experiences with ETs and the spirit world. And it's, as they call it, name it, it's The Anatomy of an ET Spiritual Deception of Biblical Magnitude. And it involves chapter 12 of the book of Revelation and the woman who bore the male child. And what is important to realize is that I was given a message to present to the world that the alleged return of the Christian, Judeo-Christian Savior. He's coming back with a different name. He's been reborn to the woman described in Revelation chapter 12, and that happened on the 1st of August, 1967. He recently turned 52 years old. I've met him. He's a pilot of extraterrestrial craft, and he has the same genome. He's a virtual clone of Jesus Christ. And we'll see if this is all going to pan out. He's just turned 52 years old, and he's has been on Earth many times, walking among us and getting to know the various nations, cultures, people of the Earth, the different languages, etc. So when he does make his official debut, it's going to be a bombshell. Let's put it that way.
Wow, I wonder if that's the same guy I thought was Jesus on the spacecraft. Wow, well, it's all in our filters, folks. It's all in our memories of what we've experienced. Janet, go ahead and weigh in on this. This is blowing my mind because this is on Jan ALdrich's book, folks, and hopefully we can get it translated. But Janet's helping me write a book, and we're going to weigh in on our portal Stargate to all these other universes out there. But Janet, you know, you've interviewed Dr. Cornet, and I want you working with Jan because I want you to help me with his book.
A lot of times. Yes, Bruce has been on my show a number of times. We know each other very well. I'm excited that you're going to be presenting. I hope everybody is, safe, gets there okay, and gets home safely. So what do we weigh? I got so confused because or like 100 things between what.
Well, what are we doing free? Well, when you left, he was talking about Blogger, and it's a free Blogger, but that's fine because you've got my archives on your AscensionCenter.network. So that's more metaphysical with our ACE Metaphysical Institute in Hawaii, but it's also with the Ascension Center where we train. That's our certification program in the ACO Association. So, folks, we've got articles and bylaws for this loose, unincorporated association of people, but all of us are doing this free, or we have our own archives. And what Jan brought to the table was, Janet, pulling all this together, but at the same time you brought up where you think people are going to keep it regardless, and you left, and Jan hadn't really said, answered about the Federation, but us keeping files. But these men are saying before they check out, this is their last Hail Mary, so to speak, just in Blog Talk, talking among ourselves, is the fact that the UFO Association organization is recognizing all the old guys and putting them in a professional association.
Dying. That's one thing that's happening now. Is a lot of the secret space program, super soldiers, are saying death is not an option. So if you're valuable,
not for me.
They want to have happen.
I
you're
keep
not
coming back.
Die. But there is no death. That's an illusion. So we are the generation that might be continuing long after our normal, quote-unquote, expiration date. I have a friend whose mother's in her late 90s, and when she wakes up, she goes, I'm still here. Why am I
That's what I do. I'm still here.
Yeah, why am I still here?
Well, that's death and dying.
Yeah, so some people are really living to be old. I think the woman that was in Gone with the Wind, what was her name? She's still alive, and she's like 105 or something, 106. She's like, why am I not dead? We're supposed to expire at such and such a date, right? So let's look at this as a brand new world. It's very different than anything before. We are.
Well, I think we're all over 60. I hadn't thought about that.
If you go
60 to 80
to a cemetery from the turn of the last century, you'll know that they didn't live to be over 40. I used to walk as a kid in the 60s. I used to walk through cemeteries, and I'd count. And I go, boy, that person's only 35, and we didn't live very long. So now we've doubled our expectancy, and we're in a generation. We could live to be 150.
Well, this is 60 to 80 driven. We're training the young kids in our UFO association. So 60 to 80.
My
but now,
husband's
let me.
turning 80. My husband's turning 80, and they said the average life expectancy is 78. And he got a checkup, and the doctor says, "Oh my God, you are so healthy. Everything is off the spectrum. So don't count on expiring." So that's one thing I want to say. So
All right, that's one of our messages,
out,
folks.
Yeah,
Don't
one of your
count on
messages
dying.
from Janet. Don't count on expiring. Because, what will you do to live forever? What will you do? And so think of it in terms of extreme longevity, but staying productive and contributing and bringing forth this new paradigm of existence. And I was going to say something and then you talk. Let me get back to my thought. So there's another spiritual
Helping us free versus paid.
Give them space to answer. When you ask me a
okay,
question,
free versus paid.
Answer. Well, I lost my train of thought, and I don't want to go in your direction. I'm going to get my thought back because you asked me a question. I'm going to get my thought. Okay, so I was talking about longevity, and there was another very important point. So we tried for 2 minutes here, and I'll see if I can get it back. Damn, it's very important. Okay, so what do we do if we live forever? And we're in this work. So I have a friend, Dr. Aubrey DeGray, and he came to my house twice, and I had him do a presentation at the Temple of Peace here in Maui. And he said that half of the people alive today, so, there's like 3.5 billion people, are going to live to be 1,000. He said it's based on the current technology, and he came here between 10 to 15 years ago. And he says, so any day now, the technology can be released that will reverse our aging. Not only will we live, but we're not going to live old and decrepit. We're going to live with the rejuvenated bodies. And that's what people say when they die. I had a guest on a couple of days ago. She said, when I was on the other side, and she was there for an extended period of time, and she said, we were all looking about 20. And we had a physical body. It wasn't the same body as this one, but it was slightly different dimensional vibratory frequency. And so anyway, and she ran into Jesus too. So people are running into Jesus. And she gave a detailed description about what her encounter was with Jesus. So, okay, so say the question
Jesus
again.
story.
What are we going to do?
Well, let's do with Jan, because I think it's great
Jesus.
that you came on.
Jan.
Well, the stories are one thing, but Jan is talking about the structure versus the content. And he pointed out content, but the point of us today in this part of his book 6 is to promote the UFO Association with the ACE Folklife and the historians, which he is. He's a professional historian. He has a degree in history. But the point for us is we left at 60 to 80 aren't ready to check out, so we'll say one of our messages is live long and prosper. But the other one is where are we going to keep all this free stuff that we've been slaves to the system on the planet? And I asked Bruce to weigh in because he's going to do an event. But Jan needs to know how are we going to keep all this and can we work together?
The key is if you don't keep paying for it, it's gone in a year. Okay, you think your website will expire and it's gone. So unless you have something set up with a fund and somebody to execute it and realize that everybody has the potential of dying. And right now we have a game changer that's out there. And I don't know if it's real or fabricated, but the story that's out there is that there's this coronavirus that's going to wipe out a lot of people, like 200,000 in, do you realize how much we buy from China?
Well, I'm sure that's reality to a lot of people, but it's not to me right now.
That's reality. Okay, but let's just say this is all this stuff is perspective and it's some kind of mind control. There's somebody controlling the information. Some people, some beings, some species.
It's a political year.
The internet. No, the internet is above all that stuff, but somebody is definitely the puppet master.
No, it's not. It's owned by the government.
Well,
it's owned by the government and the big corporations, AT&T.
The government could be the Anunnaki. The government could be the Federation. The government could be, that's an unknown. We can think it's the United States government. We can think it, but there's really layers upon layers upon layers. And you've been in the military and so have I, and I've seen the layers upon the layers upon the layers. And most people can't operate on that level, but I've been there. I've seen it, and I'm aware of it, and I know it goes on. So we don't know who's controlling this information. But let's just say that they put
all right, information. There you go.
They put this mindset on the information that there's this virus and it's coming around the planet and all these people are dying. Well, why are they doing that? Well, they're probably going to stop the distribution of supplies. Because how much comes from China? What comes from China, right? What comes from?
That's part of it. It's always a dog and pony show.
They're stopping travel. It's not just people. It's products, okay? So,
well, people buy into the Matrix, but
doesn't matter. We all buy into the Matrix. We think that this stable is solid. We think that whatever they put out in the news, whatever news you're listening to, Fox News or the other news, everybody thinks that their reality is the reality, but it's all perspective. So if it gets enough people and it becomes their operating system on what it is, it affects us on a human level, and it ends up being in the grocery stores and in our towns and cities, okay? So
well, let's put that on another radio show. Let's go back to us.
Okay, but
on Gain Gaia Movement.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing. You're wondering where the information is going to go. And the information...
Open source free library.
All you can do is keep putting it out there. And maybe you want to go on and pay for the next 20 years. Pay for your website for the next 20 years. But the problem is none of us can afford to go pay 20 years of a website to keep it running, right? And then if it's
well,
not
let's ask Jan.
It warps.
Jan,
right?
you said you wanted to be like the big study. That's just content, but that is just a blogger, and it's free because Blogger offers that through Blog, which is owned by Google, as far as I know. We can look it up.
All right, so
you
don't want to use a website.
But we're talking
Where
copyright.
Information. I'm talking about just storing your
Jan
information.
pays for a domain. This is all inside UFO Association. He pays for a domain, but he has a friend that helps him.
Jan dies.
Jan, you pay for a domain, right?
2040.
Right, I do. But so when I die, it's already. I've already talked to the administrator about where it's going to go, so it's not going to. Okay. It's not going to disappear off the web.
Unless we slam it shut.
He's planning.
Because
he's planning. I haven't done that. You haven't done that, TJ. And
I've done it.
Bruce has done that. You have your plans.
I've done it, but it doesn't mean anything because we're all in the cloud servers, and that can crash at any time. So this information can go away instantly just because in our illusion of believing that what we see is going to remain is just like all the libraries that burned in Rome with Caesar. Wasn't supposed to happen, folks. We had several cultures.
Okay, so here's what I'm doing. I'm scanning everything. Everything I can get my hands on, I'm scanning it. And it's not just staying in one place. There's in Australia, England, Sweden, there's copies of these things. They're not going away. They're not on the cloud. So there are people that can reconstruct the work I've done. So it's not.
What are they keeping them on? Are they paying for their own server at home?
No, they don't have to pay for a
archives?
server. You can carry your library on a
thumb drive. I know that.
On a thumb drive.
But
you can carry your library on a thumb drive. You got thousands and thousands of cases on one thumb drive.
But those
about
could be like
66 filing
CDs.
cabinets at Kufos are on one thumb drive.
I know, but remember, those are going away. You remember when you used to listen to cassette? Remember when you listened to a transistor radio?
It doesn't matter.
And then you went
transfer
to
the
tapes?
next media. You transfer it to the next media. You keep on doing that. Yeah, I've got
this stuff that's on
floppy disks, I tried to get that all off of floppy disks to the next generation. It's going to happen. I mean, people are. There's always going to be a technology. In fact, I think it's almost. It's an economic thing. Hey, well, okay, you've been using this technology for a while. Well, we got to upgrade here. So then everything you've done before, you better get it all onto something else real fast because it's going away. Nobody uses floppy disks anymore.
We're always upgrading our phones. And we're all going to apps
a lot of stuff was MS-DOS. Forget about that. That's gone.
Right.
You can't find it's hard to find people that know how to work with MS-DOS.
Yeah, we're past C++ and Python now, so we're way up there. All right, so half of us are going to have to stay up on the high tech, on the futuristic stuff. How do you want to divide this up between Ace Folklife, ACO Association? Ace Folklife takes in all the music, the spoken word, videographers, all of it. Okay, we work with that with Smithsonian in Washington, D.C. So we got various organizations doing that. So we're a spoken word, but we're oral historians, and we do radio podcasting, live and podcast. And now everybody's tuning into doing that, all the companies, profit or nonprofit. So we just need to decide who we want to be friends with and what we want to promote, open source or copyrighted. And all the attorneys I've worked with in the past, and Lord, I've worked with some great famous ones, they're all about the copyright, because that's where the attorneys that run the country with all that run all the corporations are going. They want us in a big argument around the world, international, so they can get in on the narrative. Right now, the politicians, it's a political year in America, so we're all about the narrative. So the politicians, and they have to pay big bucks. That's all the way it's been in mass media, to pay for their time, airtime. So the government and the president's figured out a way to get out there free in the news. It saves a lot of money out of their pocket for promoting themselves. But how are we going to stay together? So what we have is we're autistic with an R. So we have artisans, we have artists, we have astrophysicists, we have historians, astronomers, videographers, but we're trying to pull together in the internet, folks. So if you want to join us, we're going to figure out how to assist everybody stay on the cutting edge as entrepreneurs, but we're all independent contractors, small business owners, and we're Jan, last week you said you are a professional. I went back to listen. How are we going to separate with Janet on the line here? Because she has a nonprofit, but she pays out of her pocket to run her nonprofit. She even paid for a big conference called Stargate to the Cosmos, and I couldn't go, and Tommy couldn't go. But it was a relatively good success. But she's trying to archive for people and get them on Vimeo. And, people just don't want to pay for stuff because right now it appears we're doing it all free. But we're all the slaves inside the matrix doing all this free for all the big corporations that are making all the big bucks and putting it on Wall Street. But most people that I'm in Working Class Association. And the Working Class Association, a lot of them don't realize that the people inside the matrix that are doing all the work free, they go to the universities and get smart, and by the time they get out, all the jobs are gone. So I've recently had an intern, 23, going to college, but he realizes the gamers all thought they were going to get rich, and now they're not, and there's so many. Remember the big bust? We train them in the universities, and there's no jobs, because everybody went for that direction, and the bottom falls out of the computer industry.
You're up on the podium and you're preaching again. Let's come back.
All right. Well, the thing is, we've got to help the interns.
People are in a monetary system right now. We're locked in a belief system that money is it.
Free information.
People do not value free. They only value when you put a price to it.
Well, y'all figure it out.
I'm telling you, if you want to have something preserved and people will buy into it, is that you have to monetize it. And that's been the whole problem, because it used to be on YouTube that you could monetize I monetized everything. I spent hours putting everything up, and then they changed their system. See, everything is controlled by that puppet master that we don't know who that is. But that was, who's YouTube? I don't know which guy, and it's usually a guy owns YouTube, right? So they just can decide to change it all. So nothing is secure, but you can work right now in today, this moment, to monetize it. If it's monetized, then people will pay for you to access this. You have to put a value to it. They have to feel that it's valuable, and then that will help you pay for whatever, it's the cloud or the website. So it's all a circle of money, and I don't like the money system, but that's what we're in. I didn't create the world, but I'm living within it, and I'm doing what I can to keep going, one day at a time, one footstep after another. So all this abstract stuff that you're talking about is these organizations, they're nothing unless somebody puts their $2 behind it and says, I'll take some of that action. And the ones that are doing really well are Facebook. So those people inspired the world to throw money their way, and now they're billionaires. But we're somehow not inspiring them, and we're talking a lot, but we're not really getting people to, back us and help us pay for it. So then we're using our Social Security, and we're getting old and we're getting tired. So we need to think, it's like saying the same thing over and over and over. We have to go outside of that box, which is just a do loop, if then else do loop, right? And we need to go outside, new. What new can we do? Because the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over and expecting a different outcome. We're not getting a different outcome. So let's think something new and different. But we don't need to do this on a radio show because it's like a big commercial. People want to have substance. They want to have meat. So what you were doing with Jan, which is creating this archive, that has a value that somebody won't want to pay for. But anyway,
I think you're way way off the beam here. There's no way to monetize this because the number of people you have that are interested in the subject or subjects is very few. There's not enough to support it.
Yeah,
they're not
George
unified.
Monetizes it. George Norrie monetizes
you can't monetize something that nobody's interested in.
He gets $6 a month for people buying his archives, and now he has a big job, and he makes, 6, 8, 7 digits a year. So he has monetized.
What archives? What kind of archives?
On Coast to Coast. If you want to listen to all the shows they've recorded, you have to pay. He has it all in the archives, and so you can't listen. You can only listen to his live broadcast.
Yeah, I don't think he's doing 6 figures though. I'm
talking about his income he's generated by becoming a personality.
He is okay. So he's one person. Stan Freeman went all his life, and he was able to live a middle class lifestyle from. For a couple of decades, based on the fact that he went around and did talks at every place.
Right.
That's not getting ahead of anything. That's just keeping even. If there was a real interest in it, if there was a real interest in this, we would all be gone. We wouldn't be necessary because there would be money for this, and there would be people that would take over from us. We would be gone.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So there is not that interest. There's not that level of interest, and we've caused that on ourselves. It's our fault. But
so how could we have generated more interest? Is it just
well, if we stop following every cockamamie story in the world and trying to put them all together, like I said, there's very little stuff that's real here, and it's got to be like sifting sand. You sift the sand, and maybe you find somebody that left a dime out on the beach. you're not going to get very much. I hate to go through science fiction, but I read this one story that was really interesting. It was one of these invasion stories where they come to Earth and they try to take over, and somehow they decide to leave. I guess they get a virus or something, and they have to leave. And all of a sudden, you've got all these people all over the world with televisions and things. This is an early science fiction thing.
Right.
And so they've got all these things that the aliens left. And so everybody's, even though they can't speak the same language, they're holding something up, and then they're describing it mathematically, or what it does, or what they think it does, and they're slowly piecing it together. Thousands of people. We don't have thousands of people. We got thousands of lone wolves. That's what we have.
Mhm.
That's what we have. And a few people like Dolan and a couple other people can make some money off of this. Most people can't. And after a while, it's a hobby. And hobbyists fall by the wayside. So if it's not professional and you're not getting compensated for it, it's hard to get consistent results, and that's what we don't have consistent results. Like I said, you had NICAP for a while. You had actually paid staff and salary, and they did things. But more or less, that's gone. So we're like the scribes in the Middle Ages. We're trying to keep the dark away. We're trying to keep knowledge going, but it's not something that's going to pay the bills. There's not that much interest in it. We've more or less shot our wad. There's nothing left. TTSA thinks that they're going to be the saviors. I don't see them making any money. It's just Blink, what is it, 134, just keeps putting his money in the treasury, keeps loaning TTSA money. They're not making that much money.
Right.
Certainly the book that they wrote about the old man losing his clothes didn't make him a lot of money. I don't know what that has to do with UFOs or anything, but you can only do so much with coffee cups and hats and T-shirts. It's like I told Dr. John Reed, we need an Institute of Ufology, and it needs to have hundreds, if not thousands, of people. And so it's not happening. The Condon Committee, look at them. Oh my God! First of all, they couldn't figure out how to study UFOs. They spent almost a year fumbling around about how they're going to study them, and finally they just did a few cases and then slapped the executive summary, said there's nothing to it, and that's it. And they were able to spend over $250,000 just with almost nothing to show for it. I mean, NICAP gave them hundreds of cases to look into. They only looked into a small fraction of them. So McDonald gave them cases. They said, if we solve these 20 cases he just gave us, he'll just come back with 20 more. And I'm saying to myself when I read that, I said, yeah, that's called science. Yeah, there's a lot of dead ends. But I don't see how right now how anybody's going to make money. Keo made money for a while, then he poured it all right back into. I mean, he had bestseller, Flying Saucers Are Real, and then Flying Saucers Top Secret. I think it may have been a bestseller for a couple of weeks, but it didn't sell as much as his first book. But then when he got NICAP, he put all the money he had made, plus a lot of money that he couldn't afford to. He cut off his kids from going to college because of that. He put it all into NICAP. It's just, you know, you say we can monetize it, but it's hard.
Yeah,
it's hard to monetize it when
like
you know.
It's like a hobby. This has to be a love, just what you love doing, because there's no money in it. I always laugh when people say, "Oh, you're getting rich on these books." I go, "Yeah, right."
No, I haven't got rich on anything.
Enjoy to do. Not getting rich on it. Yeah. So anyway, I don't know. I gave up on that. I do other things. You know, I don't worry about my UFO books making money, and I don't worry about monetizing any of the stuff because that's not it. I used to make money doing therapy with people, so I'm going back to doing therapy. But where I made my most money in life was relationship counseling. So, you know, I'm putting up that shingle again. But there's no real money for the people like us that are older and retired. You had to do that when you were in your 20s and 30s and 40s, and now it's like, you know, they're surfing to the end of the road. And I'm really happy when I can keep my websites up. I've been channeling money that I earned from other things into maintain my websites, but I don't think any of my websites have been sustaining themselves for the past 20 years. I've been paying for them. It's been my charity to the world. I don't go to a church or organized religion. This is my charity to the world. And there's somebody out there that likes the information. I mean, I do get some people viewing my show. I've got over 1,000 shows recorded, and TJ's got about 1,000. So, you know, that's our legacy. These shows that we record, and a lot of my people are dead that I recorded. Not a lot, but, you know, every year somebody passes, and there I've got this wonderful archive of an interview of somebody that I was blessed to interview, and I'm very grateful that I got to interview them. Right?
Right. Well, okay, so this is how I keep television people away from me. They come to me and they say, "Hey, we want you on this show." Now, most people just jump at that because they want the notoriety, or they want to be able to say, "I was on TV." I tell them, "Hey, look, and this is real small fry for television, but most of the people that do UFOs shows don't have much of a budget, anyways. I tell them, "Hey, it's $30 an hour plus expenses, 10 hours minimum. That's cheap." Stan Freeman used to get scale whenever he appeared on a UFO show. So scale is a lot more than that. I don't know how much it is today, but it used to be, say, in the 70s to about $2,000 an appearance. So $300 is nothing, plus expenses, whatever that is. But they don't even want to pay that. That's why I'm saying it's hard to monetize this stuff. Yeah. We're getting close to the end. I just like to repeat these two sites that people should probably go to. The Big Study, and it's a blog, and it's Swords, and he puts down all his experience in the subject. And then Above Top Secret they've just put huge amounts of data. It's all in PDF, so they've transcribed a lot of these shows on the internet, and is it? Not Twitter. The shows where they have a lot of where they have interviews. People do. It's like it's an internet blog. I forget what you know what it is. Everybody knows what it is. My memory's been abducted right now. What is it? Not Twitter. It's
Facebook. Twitter.
No, not Facebook. No. Where they interview people all the time. Every day there's dozens of these things.
Not sure what you're referring to. TJ, are you there? What's Jan?
I'm talking about okay, I'll remember it after we're off the air.
Okay.
I mean, if you guys don't know what it is, I'm sorry. I can't think of it right now.
Hey, Jan, can you hear me?
It's like this, like what we're doing right now, exactly right now. What is that called?
Blog Talk.
Live.
Not the
Internet radio.
No, it's not internet radio.
Ain't that tune? I don't know. Sorry, I'm missing it.
Okay, so
about oral history.
They're doing it every day. YouTube, yeah, exactly.
YouTube. Okay.
So there's hundreds of those things that have been transcribed. There's a lot of government and other documents that are available, and like I said, it's over 250,000 pages.
Mm-hmm.
They just put up there. It's just been up there for. In fact, I think they just announced it today. So that's something to people to look if they're interested in the subject. Something to people to look for. And I'm sure it's not everybody's cup of tea, but everybody will find something that they are interested in. And then, like I said, Swords has put out his interest for his whole life in these blogs, so that's something else to look at. I would say that if I don't finish scanning stuff before I pass on, the University of New Mexico is going to get my stuff, and they have already said that it doesn't matter how much I have, it's going to be a drop in the bucket to what they can store. Everybody says, "Oh, how can they store all that?" And the dean there at the college told me they've got so much room. They're building a big, giant storage area. It's not like the universities in the north. The universities in the south are the ones that are going to hold all the material because they're building archives like crazy. So he said, if you put your little collection in here, and I told him it's not little. He said, to us it is. It will take up very little room compared to what we have. And I talked to David Mahler, and his stuff is going there, and he said yeah, it's he said they could take all his stuff and all my stuff and a dozen other people's stuff, and it will just it won't be that much. And I've got 4 rooms here at my house that are filled to the ceiling with file boxes and things and filing cabinets, and then I've got a giant storage area down at one of the storage places that's filled with stuff.
Oh my God!
Yeah, this is not a small undertaking that I've done.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not talking about books and periodicals. I'm talking about documents and case files.
So you have somebody lined up that if you were to pass, they will go and gather all that stuff and
we have
the
people.
dump truck and
The University of New Mexico is. I'm going to sign a paper that they can take it. Now, we have gone out and interviewed people, and we have some of them. We've asked them to put in their will that it will come to us if they pass away. So this is kind of like a succession plan. We have a succession plan. We think we have a succession plan for CUFOS. That's why we're trying to copy all their stuff. But then the paper stuff will probably go to the University of New Mexico eventually if CUFOS doesn't start operating again. So I don't know.
That's good. You have a plan. I have no idea what's going to happen to all the stuff we have here.
Yeah.
You know,
and Valet is sending his material to Rice University.
That's a good idea, yeah.
So Rice has a number of people, Dr. Haynes, Richard Haynes, and a number of other people have their material going to Rice. Now, Valet has put a 10-year moratorium on looking at it, though.
Oh, my goodness.
I think there's a reason for that. I think because he let other people that were interested in ufology use his files, and he signed a non-disclosure for a certain period of time. So his stuff won't be available. I think it's about 8 or 9 years forward from this. Well, I won't be around then, so that's probably not me. So there's some of Hynek's stuff is at Northwestern University. People have said it's not that interesting. There's Clarksburg has Gary Barker's stuff at the county museum. Condon's material is at the American Philosophical Society, as is Menzel's, Class, Dr. Charles Olivier, who was president of the American Meteor Society and a NICAP board member. So there are these. Dr. Roy Craig, his material is at Texas A&M. Texas Tech has done a lot of oral histories with people that have had UFO sightings. So there are places where this stuff can go after we feel that it has no use for us, or after we pass away. So there are places that this material can go. I think Rice is more interested in the metaphysical aspect, or the cultural aspect. You know, so I think they're a more skeptical thing. They're more interested in, look at these UFO freaks. Look what their beliefs are. I think that's their thing. But in the meantime, they're storing our materials. So that's
here's what happened when I worked for WRS Motion Pictures in the 80s, in the early 80s or mid 80s. They were getting all the films that Hollywood had produced from the beginning of film, right? And so they were desperately making they didn't have CDs or DVDs back then. They had VHS and beta tapes for a while, and so they had shipped all these originals to a vault in Pittsburgh, and then the roof started leaking. So it was like they didn't discover it until some of these things got. So we never, we can have all our plans in place, but the floods happen, the rains get in, the roof leaks.
Right. And I know that George Fawcett's material apparently has all been discarded because the roof gave way.
The roof gave way. The roof leaked. Wherever you're storing, that's why I think the government made the stuff underground. But I don't know how solid that is. Well, if there's a good earthquake, will all that collapse, or how do they ensure that things under the ground won't be moving with the tectonic plates? So I guess we're all just dust in the wind, and we're like the sand painting or the sand castle, and a good breeze, a good wind, and we're all washed away. But I applaud your efforts in taking the next steps. And,
so as far as the government goes, they don't know what they have or where it is. It's like the end of the Spielberg movie, Raiders of the Lost Ark. It just in some warehouse somewhere.
They tell me it's good as the clerical person that documented it, and then tell me it's good as where the documentation of where it is, how well that's preserved. So
right, exactly. So
the moral of the story is be here now and enjoy your now. And don't
Colonel McCoy ran the biggest microfilming operation in the world, I think, at the time during the Second World War. There were people all over Europe, military units that were looking for plans, blueprints, everything about technology, the Nazi technology, and they were gathering it, and they sent it to London, and then McCoy and his group was microfilming it all. And of course, McCoy was the first. He ran Project Sign, and we did find some microfilms that they made of what they had. And going through some of the Project Blue Book things, you can see that some of these cases in Project Blue Book came off microfilms. So Michael Hall and Wendy Connors asked some of the historians at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, said, what happened to all these microfilms that McCoy had? I mean, you must have a giant library somewhere. They don't know where it is. These are the historians of the base. They don't know where it is. And we've asked 4 different historians. They have no idea where it is.
Right. And over here in Hawaii, they had all the building plans and records, and they put it in the building, and then it had the asbestos, so then nobody was allowed to go in it.
Right.
So,
or with a National Enquirer, they got hit by an anthrax attack, so they had to destroy all their stuff. Some of the stuff they had is the APRO cases on microfilm.
Great.
And
then they have all these old reel-to-reels and floppy disks, and nobody has the equipment to read them anymore. And that was the story with John Tiger, the one with our fail. He had to go back to the 70s to get some kind of computer technology that no longer was in the future. So, maybe that's our archiving system, is that we can eventually time travel, just go back and retrieve the information all over again from that point in time. Hopefully that exists. That'd be great. That's the ultimate storage system. Just go back in time to when it was created.
So
anyway, we're almost out of time. Last 2 minutes to you, I guess, or TJ. I'm gonna stop talking.
Okay. Well, one more thing in this. Robert Todd was he was probably the king of FOIA. He did so many FOIAs. I think only John Greenwald is approaching his level of FOIAs, and we have the correspondence from the Air Force Intelligence Headquarters on UFOs. That's different from Project Blue Book. So from 47 to 52, we've got this correspondence. It's maybe 2 filing cabinets full. Okay, so 53 comes along. 53, they decided they were going to put a lot of their records on microfilm. Nobody knows where these microfilms are. Now, Todd tried to do a FOIA, and I think they couldn't find it, so they told them, you're denied. But I think the reason was that they didn't know where the stuff was. They didn't know where the microfilms are. Somebody has to go to the archives, because the archives they've got all these tons and tons of records on paper, but they've got huge amounts of microfilms, and somebody has to look through those and find out where these things are.
Right.
When I went to the Air Force Historical Research Agency, I had a hint that the 4th Air Force out there in California had microfilm from 1947, their records. When I looked at that, there was another microfilm that hadn't been indexed, the next one in line, and it had from 48 to 52. So I don't think a lot of these people know where their stuff is, as far as officials go. So that was a great discovery. I haven't had one like that for a while. That's about 30 years ago. So.
Wow. Hey, I think we're out of time. TJ, are you there? You want to wrap up the show? We're a minute past the top of the hour. I don't know if we're still doing the broadcast.
I appreciate everybody. I'm going to let stand by Tommy, and I'll let him announce his show tomorrow. But Janet, thank you for joining us and weighing in on
I've got to sign off now. So thank you so much for having me. Love and blessings. Aloha.
Thank you. Okay. Tommy, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. Just say hi. We're still recording, so this will go out on this part. But, Tommy, I'd like you to be a part of this show by announcing what we're doing with the ACE Folklife in the ACE, which I've got authors coaching. ACE Life Folks Like the Biggest Loser. But, Jan, have you talked to Tommy? Remember Tommy and I?
We were going to do a show today on Indian lore with the UFOs.
Yeah, I was hoping we could do that, but I needed to get this thing out of the way. But Tommy is going to do a show tomorrow if you could come on. Do you want to do one tomorrow, Jan?
No, I got a follow-up consultation tomorrow, so I'll be stuck for most of the afternoon.
All right. Well, what about next Wednesday, Tommy?
I just want to ask Tommy about something. Does WAPI, does that ring any bells?
It's a tribe, yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's a tribe, and I think it's also a person. And the basket maidens come down from the sky and dance with him. Does that sound familiar?
Well, yeah. Well, we could talk
There's
about that.
There's so many of these stories in Indian lore that it's just amazing.
Well, but see, here's the thing. I'm half Native. I traveled all over the United States. I danced with many tribes. I sat with many of the elders, and I actually was going to battle with 2 of them, Archie Reindeer and Wallace Black Elk, who are considered the most famous Native people in the United States. But their fathers were the head medicine people. But the stories they tell are incredible. And what's going on with the natives doing their UFO conferences now and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm a rebel. I'm hardcore as far as proof and truth. it's hard to believe any of the stories because none of it, even when they say they work with Bigfoot and all those kind of things, they never got any real help. So I always say, if you say you're going to work with a spiritual being that's going to protect you, show where he protects you. And every story they tell just shows how the Native people got destroyed and wiped out. I mean, even when they said Bigfoot was helping them, when the star beings came down, they don't even know what race it was. All the tribal people have no clue what race the star beings were, and it was a particular race. But don't forget, they were also dealing with the giants as well, trying to kill the giants. So there was a lot going on. But their stories are so fabricated over time, like every other story in every other nation and every other religion. It loses any kind of truth to it because, we could believe all the stories out there right now, and not one of them is really going to help the human race move forward as a people. It'll help the rich people because the government's working with the alien races that are building these cities and everything else for them underground. Has nothing to do with saving us. And I'm glad I didn't come on the show before because my viewpoints are a lot different than almost 90% of the people out there in the UFO world. I've been there, I experienced it, I went through it, and I look at the evidence of what's really happening, not what people say. You could pick up an artifact and say, well, that was an alien's artifact, but what good was it to them really? Even the pyramids, what good are they to us now? All the ideas of what the ancient aliens talk about, they get paid $20,000 to $25,000 for the weekend, just so you know. They're beyond the 10,000, 5,000 mark. They go into the big marks. All the money goes to the big speakers when they do a conference like that. So they're not into penny ante, how many hours and stuff. They do 2 hours of speaking, and they get paid $20,000. So it's not like the average UFO speaker that could speak 2 workshops, do a workshop for the weekend.
And half of them I'm sorry, they don't know what they're talking about.
Well, that's the big problem. Big problem.
Yeah.
Now, I'm glad. I'm doing a show tomorrow at Tina Bird. She's been abducted half of her life. Her story's real. She agrees with me almost. We agree almost about 99, 98% on everything, including there's no such thing as a good alien. I know people totally disagree with that, but that's their choice. I said when a good alien comes down and helps mankind, Tesla worked with a bad alien race. Einstein worked with a bad alien race. The technology they brought out is going to destroy the planet, not save it. So when we talk about the most important thing that ever happened was that the technology that Tesla brought out to this world. And he didn't get it out of his brain. He got it out of technology that the aliens gave him and showed him. So, yeah, we got problems coming soon. This virus is an alien virus, and I can't say where it was dropped off, whether it was dropped off in the United States and brought to China, or whether China was working with it. It's a year old already, just so you know. They had it. It got out. Whether somebody released it or how it got out is a different story. But China wants to take over the world. They're building giant cities, so their foundation is not about destroying their own race. But they will, if this virus spreads to Tibet, it will destroy Tibet. They already took over Tibet, but it'll destroy all the Tibetan people that are there that still follow the Dalai Lama. So, yeah, there's battles going on with China. They want to be the number one country in the world. And right now they're going to go after the United States money, and that's what's happening right this second. So, yeah, who controls them? What race do they work with? But they're being people fighting with guns and weapons. The United States already worked with aliens for such a long time, and the technology that we're going to use could eliminate a country in a very short time. So, I mean, that's why the United States doesn't want to talk about it. If they did, then China would try to wipe us out before we could. I mean, there's reasons why the government covers up what they're doing. They don't want to tell the world what we're prepared to do. We're fighting with aliens in space, and so is Russia. So people don't want the truth. They're not ready for it. They want to hear good aliens are going to come help us. I'm not going to name names, but people think aliens are good. The Anunnaki is the most evil race that ever came to this planet. Next to the reptilians, the Greys aren't half as bad. They created a couple worlds already. If you listen to the show, Tina can explain that greatly. But there's a lot of things going on, but we're in trouble, and the outside of the planet is in the worst trouble. So, yeah, I'm hardcore about that. And I look at the facts, I look at the people talking about it, and their proof. Just so you know, I stayed with Sergeant 18, and we worked up in Wanacue, New Jersey. Now, Bruce Cornet's story is his story. But Brian and me, we were on the government property every day, 3-4 days a week. We stayed there for 6 to 8 hours every night. Bruce came out there a couple times with us. We spent a couple years going there. We filmed every kind of ship that exists, every kind of creature, every kind of alien entity. Oh, man, it was a place where Tesla was working with DuPont. That whole story, nobody talks about it because they don't know it. Now, that should be a whole show because, and the stories that are coming out, the books, I mean, Bruce is going to be talking about it a little. But we went to the police departments up there getting all the information of these cops because the Wanacue Reservoir was a city. There were people living there. They brought the people out and flooded the city. For 9 months, UFOs were going in and out of that city while the Army was stationed around it. They couldn't do a thing about it. It's the most important UFO story in the United States because basically it's what happened after Tesla created the Philadelphia experiment. I mean, Bruce got involved with plotting out the vortex of energy between Pine Bush, Long Island, Montauk, and the three sections where it was, Wanacue, New Jersey. But basically, what went on here, I was friends with the people involved with the Philadelphia experiment. The one that died, who was the most important one, not ALdrich. I mean, Preston Nichols talks about it, but ALdrich was the only one that actually went back in time. And he was the only one that lived through it. So his truth, I think, is probably the most important if you're going to even mention the Montauk Project or the Philadelphia experiment. And he was friends. I was friends with him. So was Sergeant 18. And I could go into the whole story, but we don't have time. The show is over. But for me, the truth is all that matters, not what people say, not people what they want. Because basically we have the history of the Anunnaki. We have the history of the Sumerians. We have the history of the Atlanteans. So who do you want to follow? Which one of them? Their truth was documented in stone, and it's the oldest stone documents on this planet. So do we want to listen to them, or we want to listen to Joe Schmo writing a document and putting it in a file and say, okay, here's the truth. I mean, we have stories coming out every day. Like you said, these top speakers that are making all the money never saw a UFO, were never inside a UFO, never saw an alien, was never close to an alien. So how can they talk about it? I mean, I can say names because I met with many people and challenged them to their face. I don't hide what I say, don't cover up what I say, and I put it out there mainstream. I said, you want to talk, you want to debate it, go right ahead. You want to go to court against me, please. Take it to court. Say you know God. I mean, any of those things. Here's the battle. We're trying to bring the truth out. I know TJ agreed with me originally. We want to bring truth out to help people. And I mean, saying we're going to live here forever, why would we want to? That's what reincarnation was, to teach us so that we didn't have to stay here so we can leave. But see, Lucifer is not the one in power on this planet. Satan is. Satan's the one that's given these people the idea, kill and murder, rape, and stay in here, to do it over and over again. Why leave? We can have all the fun we want here. We got drugs. We got everything we could possibly ever want. So staying in a world that's pretty messed up is pretty sad in my case, because the world will get better. The closer you get to God, which nobody talks about, nobody can, nobody wants to. But when you get closer to those higher realms, everything gets better. And if something gets better, why would you want to stay in a place that's worse? It's called ego. I'll let it there. I could go on forever, but that's where I'm at right now. So
right.
The show that I'm doing.
Tommy, I love you,
yeah.
And you've been with my Ace Folkife, but Jan and you need to have a talk off air about how we're going to do folklife myths and legends, because Jan's very aware of the myths and legends. Plus, what he sent me to was about a blogger that's free, but he has a lot of tales of the extraterrestrials and the ones I'm interested in, because I saw them come out of the water in Kaneohe, Jan. I can't prove it to you, but a bunch of us girls were called over to Hawaii to do meet these people. But I had a cousin that I swear they were like mermaids. But anyway, that gets crazy because we don't want to believe in things that are magic, mystical, mystery. So I also have a group for
TJ.
But we got to figure this out.
Okay, but we have the aquatic race here. They're half human and half fish, and they live under the ocean. That's what all the green orbs going into the ocean off of Hawaii are. It's a race. We have the Pleiadians and them. They're the two races that that populate around the Hawaiian Islands.
Well, I
all right,
know
and they're
everything,
real.
but all right. Well, that's what I want to
know.
do with you and Jen. How do I prove that? Because you're very much on truth, but it's your truth and what you've experienced or what you think. So I want y'all to watch The Monk, and it's called from Hawaii, folks. 10 years he was a monk in Hawaii, and he is an entrepreneur. So he's going around teaching, and you can listen to him, Jan, on YouTube. But I like his logic. He has 3 bars for a comedian, 3 white bars. He says he has 3 more bars than us, so it's funny. It's called Monk Entrepreneur. His name's Don DePani. Dan, D-A-N. I may be saying it wrong. Dan DePani, and help me with my entrepreneurs and my interns and my university and how we're restructuring all this, folks, because I want to help everybody, but I'm only one person. So if you can join my group, please do. It's Teresa J. Morris, and I have a Patreon account for my community. And my community is just full of people with their own ideas, expectations, filters, experiences. And I guess my daughter named our group Ascension Center with me when we were born and we died. So we're curious creatures. We have memories of past lives, and she's dead now. But she gave her life for the Ascension Center organization, the ACO, and she called us disgruntled monks. And it's on my refrigerator in there. She left me Galatians from the Bible, but she believed that we have higher beings. We call them God. And so, Christian, Muslim, Jew, whatever color you are, we don't care. The thing is, you're here now. And the bottom line, Tommy, is suicide prevention. And we hear every day of friends of ours that have died. And I lost my producer, Paul Rosenberg, who called me to tell me he was checking out, but I didn't know what to do. He told me, don't call my, it's too late now, don't call my sister, don't call. And he was in Variety because he was a producer with, he worked with Ron Howard and on the astronaut show, Apollo 13, I think, with Ron Howard. So anyway, folks, we've had a lot of wonderful people. Tommy, Paul went over after I interviewed him, and he became a big member of our group here as a producer in his Vimeo with, he went on Carrie Cassidy. I guess she heard my show, or you told her about it, because you always tell Carrie stuff. But, Jan, I hope you get to know Tommy, but y'all are both opinionated. I would like to see if y'all get along, because Tommy loved Dr. Bruce Cornet for a while, but when all my people start
No.
they learn about each other.
TJ,
Dr. Bruce Cornet came in late. You don't love anybody?
No, I don't love Bruce Cornet. I don't love people in the UFO world because most of them are storytellers.
Well, you don't love me?
You're different, TJ. You're not. You're a person I know as a friend. That's different.
Oh, okay.
My partner.
I'm glad we got that
close
squared
to me.
away. I thought you loved everybody. Well, Jan, I'm not going to ask you that question because I don't want to know the answer.
Well, he might love everybody.
Do you love
I
everybody?
hate everybody equally. Equal opportunity hater.
Right.
You guys are hard on me. I'm trying to market it.
Well, you know the stuff we're having in Iowa right now. I mean, I've been.
The politics.
Yeah, the politics, the caucus, and they messed it up, And it's really not the volunteers' fault. I don't think they were properly trained on this app, and I don't think the app was. The people that looked at it afterwards, but I've been giving the Democrats hell all day, and this one guy says you're a Trumper, and I said no, I don't like him either, and you don't like he says, well, the Republicans are dumb, and I said, yeah, that's what we got. We got two parties, dumb and dumber.
Well, I call it the dog and pony show, but I call it the pony and the elephant, dog and pony, but I call it the elephant pony show. Elephant donkey show.
Wait. You can call it whatever you want, but we have to live within it. All right?
That's right.
Two people that hate each other, we got to deal with the two people that have different viewpoints on life. Now, I just wrote a letter. I hate Trump, but I support him blocking. He's going to go on TV tonight or right now saying that he's going to stop 6 other countries from coming into the United States. I support that.
It's from the ancient of times, the wars, how we do it. Think about it, back to before Christ. You know, we have to have both sides of chaos to balance out the universe. It's very universal.
Look, you can have two sides. We've had this for years. We had two sides, and somehow they find a way to come to a conclusion. It may not be exactly right 100%. Nobody gets 100%, but now we're having a lot of problems with being able to just get along with the other person instead of pointing out all his faults and foibles, instead of saying, okay, look, we'll give you something, you give us something. That's the way this country has worked for years.
Hyperbole.
No. The New Age, I use the word New Agers. They think everybody has equal rights. Let the rapist have the rights. Let the murderer have rights. Let the child being abused have the same rights as everybody else. No, they don't. Nobody has rights. The rich people took over the rights of people. The Constitution was written by the native people, not white people. The white people blocked the red people from being part of it. So that's against the Constitution, which we think supports the people. It only supports the white people.
Help us write it. Well, let's stop right there because I want to be uplifting and don't want to scare people off.
Okay.
But, folks, I'm going to do what I can, but everybody's entitled to an opinion, and I'll do my best to supply a platform for all of you people that want to learn your speech craft. Please get to know Jan and Tommy. They're both in my ACO club, my Folkife, and my UFO association, and I get to pick who those people are. It's my club. But if you want to be associated with any organizations, I'm very loving and giving. I'm one of those love and light people, but I'm also logical. So, I'm the disgruntled monk. But you can find me as the Cosmos Ambassador, as a precognitive psychic entertainer. And I love Tommy and I love Jan in different ways, but I'm trying to be logical because I've never met either of them. I've never seen their bodies, but I mean it spiritually. So logically, spiritually, I'm doing spiritual science for everybody. Jan, I hope you'll come back. Now, if you want to, we can do a Friday, Jan. But Bruce is doing my authors club, but he wants to be in the UFO Association, Jan, and we haven't voted yet. Normally, everybody in my group has to be in a year. Tommy's been with me in many lifetimes, in many universes. But Bruce, I'm getting to know this first year, but we have the articles and bylaws, Jan. Everybody go to acoclub.app, please, and look up the articles and bylaws and let me know if you want to play with me and what group you want to be in. Or you can just take the easy way and do the contributor supporter and go to patreon.com /join/Teresa J. Morris. That's my name, and playing the book of life and the game of life is my game. And I'm trying to figure out everybody, and yes, I do use tarot cards a lot, and I believe in archetypes and lifestyle. So this is Jan's book, too, episode 6. Thank you, Tommy, for hanging around, and we'll talk for 2 hours tomorrow, okay, Tommy?
All right. Okay,
Thank you, Jan. When will we see you again? All right, when will we see you, Jan? Tuesday, or just keep Tuesday for UFO Association, or what? Friday night too, or what?
Yeah, I can't do Friday, and
weekends.
I don't think I can do next Tuesday either. I got a lot of appointments right now, so that.
Okay. Well,
it was hard to get back here for this show because,
we can do it late, 7 to 9 at night.
Yeah. See, sometimes you're in the office and you're waiting for hours before they see you, and then they want to talk to you for a long time.
That's what happened to me. And remember, I missed a Tuesday because I thought surely I'd be back because like it was 12 or 1 o'clock, And they didn't even get to see me till 4. I missed my own show with you. So that's true, folks. The 60 Dating Crew, we gotta go to the doctors. Well, just think about it. At least once a month, Tommy, you and me and him. Wednesday, it doesn't matter. We got Tuesday through Friday.
Yeah. And next Tuesday is no good for me.
See when he comes up with a date. Let him come up with a date.
Yeah, you come up with a date.
Let you know when he's free.
Can you email me, Jan?
Yeah, sure.
All right. Let me know once a month which date you want, and we'll continue episode 7 with Tommy. All right. Love and light. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Thank you, everybody. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Jan.
Okay. Bye.